Over the last few months, Student Housing and Residential Life has worked diligently to prepare quarantine spaces for residents who have been exposed to COVID-19 and isolation spaces for those who have tested positive for COVID-19. We want our quarantine isolation spaces to give our students the opportunity to continue with their academics as much as possible. Student Housing and Residential Life has designated several rooms in residence halls for students who have been impacted by COVID-19. The purpose of this video is to outline what you need to do to prepare and what to expect in the event you need to quarantine or isolate. Quarantine is for students who have potentially been exposed to COVID-19. The CDC and UH processes identified that persons needing to quarantine must do so for 14 days after your last contact with the person who has been diagnosed with COVID-19. Isolation is for students who have tested positive for COVID-19. This isolation time period is at least 10 days. Before a student can return to campus, at least 24 hours must have passed since last fever without the use of fever-reducing medications and improvements in symptoms. For more information on the UH protocols regarding quarantine and isolation, we strongly encourage you to visit the UH COVID-19 website. In addition, UH provides a frequently asked questions section on their website, which answers many related quarantine and isolation questions and concerns. Let's go over preparing to quarantine or isolate on campus. A Student Housing and Residential Life staff member will be in contact with you via email or phone number immediately following notification of needing to quarantine or isolate. They will work with the resident to coordinate their quarantine or isolation, such as meals, mail, and trash pickup. It is important to follow the instructions provided for your safety and those of the residential community. If a resident chooses to remain on campus for the duration of their quarantine or isolation, they may be required to move to a designated quarantine isolation space on campus for a length of time. We suggest students prepare a 10 to 14 day quantity of the following items to assist them while quarantining or isolating in a new space: linens, toiletries, academic and testing materials, electronic devices, clothes, and detergent. Once you have moved into your quarantine or isolation space, you will need to remain inside the quarantine isolation space with the front door closed for the entire duration of your quarantine or isolation period. Please note that leaving the designated space before you have been approved to return to normal activity via the Return to Campus form will result in documentation and possible disciplinary action through the student conduct process. Exceptions include urgent medical appointments and building emergencies. If you must leave the isolation space due to an emergency, please notify your residence hall front desk as soon as possible. A SHRO staff member will coordinate meals and packages, which will be delivered daily between 12 to 2 p.m. and 5 to 7 p.m. If you would like food delivered through a delivery app, please ensure they are delivered during these designated hours only. Residents will receive a call from the hall service desk notifying them the delivery is on the way. After knocking on the door, the deliverer will step away and you can open the door while wearing a mask to retrieve your meals or packages. SHRO staff will include a trash bag with the delivery of your items. Instructions for trash pickup will be provided in your email from the Housing, Quarantine, and Isolation Manager. If your resident has items that need to be delivered to them, please instruct delivery persons to deliver those to the service desk. Desk staff will deliver these items with the delivery of trash bags and/or other items, meals, as needed. Please note that visitors are not permitted to deliver these items to you directly. We care about the well-being of our residents. While staying in your quarantine or isolation space, housing staff will contact you via phone and email twice a day to check in and to address any concerns that you may have. It is important to answer these calls or return emails quickly. This allows our team to know every resident is safe. Here are a few do's and don'ts to remember while you are in a quarantine space on campus. Do not leave your space unless you have a medical appointment or if there is a building emergency. Do adhere to meal and package delivery times to ensure that you receive the items you need. Do consider getting tested as frequently as you feel comfortable doing so if you are in a quarantine due to your potential exposure to a positive case. COVID-19 testing is available at the UH Student Health Center. We understand that this time can be challenging, but it is important to remain in your space until your quarantine period is completed. On the day before your quarantine or isolation period is scheduled to end, you will receive a link to the Return to Campus form from the Housing, Quarantine, and Isolation Manager. Once you have completed the form, you will receive an email from VOC stating that you have been cleared to return to your assigned space or that you will need to remain in your quarantine isolation space. Please send a copy of the results to the Housing, Quarantine, and Isolation Manager. Once you have forwarded your email from VOC, stating that you have been cleared to return to your assigned space to the Housing Quarantine and Isolation Manager, they will provide you with the instructions on how to check out of your quarantine space. Please do not leave your space until you receive final written approval from the Housing Quarantine and Isolation Manager. Your health and well-being are important to us, and we are here to support you while you're in your quarantine space in the residence halls. Thank you for choosing to live with us.